please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
And I'm glad that the court has pronounced unambiguously that all this the massive propaganda which was being done against the UPA was without any foundation.
Are you happy with the order? Are you happy with the order?
Yes. The whole thing has fallen apart today. I mean, after the judge has given his judgment.
नहीं कोई लॉस नहीं हुआ. आज अदालत ने सिद्ध कर दिया कि कोई करप्शन नहीं था और कोई लॉस नहीं.
There is nothing in this that the Congress party should consider it as some kind of a certificate.
7 long years in the making, the 2G verdict is finally here in a landmark judgment. The special CBI court judge O.P. Saini has acquitted all the accused, including former telecom minister A Raja, DMK leader Kanimozhi and a clutch of corporate honchos. The order reserves some scathing words for the prosecution led by the CBI and the Enforcement Directorate. The officials of the then telecom department were also in the line of the fire in that judgment. Let me run you through some of the key lines from that interesting order. The judge said, and I quote now, "For the last about 7 years, on all working days, summer vacation included, I religiously sat in the open court from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. awaiting for someone with some legally admissible evidence in his possession, but all in vain. Not a single soul turned up." End of quote. The judge went on to tear the prosecution apart, saying, and I quote again, "I have absolutely no hesitation in holding that the prosecution has miserably failed to prove any charge against any of the accused made in its well-choreographed charge sheet." End of quote. Now, Justice Saini also made some stinging observations against the officials of the then telecom department. Quoting a controversial clause in the Department of Telecom's rules, the judge said, and I quote, "The terms used in these clauses include associate, promoter, stake, etc. No one in the Department of Telecom knows their meaning, despite the fact that the guidelines were framed by the DOT itself. In such circumstances, DOT officials themselves are responsible for the entire mess." End of quote. The verdict sparked wild celebrations outside the court, where hundreds of DMK supporters had gathered. A Raja and Kanimozhi said that they stand vindicated. Meanwhile, former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh said that the propaganda against the UPA stands demolished. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley hit back, saying that this is not a badge of honour for the Congress. Here are the key reactions that have been pouring in all day today in the case, starting with the key protagonist in the issue, A Raja.
Yes, sir. Are you happy with the order? Are you happy with the order? Yes, sir. Anything about Vinod?
What has the last 6 years been like for you, and what does a day like today mean in terms of vindication for all that you've been through in the last 6 years?
See, being accused of corruption is not an easy burden to carry, and it has been very painful, and but of course it's a learning experience also, and politically I've learnt a lot in these 6 years.
What have you learned in the last 6 years?
Who stands by you, who doesn't, and what politics can do.
What about, just the legalities of the case itself? You did not hold any public office. You were not a minister.
Yes,
and if I'm not mistaken, in 2007, you were not even in Parliament. Were you in Parliament already by then?
2007, middle of 2007.
Middle of 2007. You were a director in what was essentially a private company.
Yes, for 2 weeks before the launch of the television
channel.
And I'm a minority shareholder, and I had resigned nearly 1.5 or 2 years before the so-called
So
transaction.
Why do you think you had to go through all of this?
I'd love to know the answers, and I really don't know. I'm searching for those answers, and because it was surprising, because I've never been involved in the working of the television channel, and I'm not interested. It's not up my interest thing, and I've hardly been there also. I'm into the Kalinga TV office, and I was only director before the launch of the channel, and we had filed my resignation with the ROC. So, I mean, you can't dispute the ROC, and the CBI I had filed a case saying that I was in a meeting, in a board meeting, after I had resigned, and I had signed it. But there are records which was produced in the court that I had not signed those meetings. I had not gone for any of the board meetings after I had resigned, and not even AGM meetings. So there is a proof on record. There are documentary evidence, and why did the CBI go against that and file a charge sheet?
So you said you've learned a lot politically. Who then was the CBI taking instructions from to as Judge Saini says in this case, the CBI has clearly failed to prove beyond reasonable doubt?
Because they had based their case entire, I mean, you know the CAG reports, like everything, even a welfare scheme, they say is a loss to the government. And we've never come across any case which is based on a notional loss which has been quoted by the CAG. But this is the first time, and there are a lot of questions. I mean, so many other things happened in the country, and people involved in that today are in places of power. And I won't say it is just a political conspiracy. It was much larger than that.
When you look back and you look at that whole 1,76,000 figure, that's where it all started
One thing
from.
is, the CAG says 1,76,000 crores, but the CBI in its charge sheet says it's 30,000 crores.
Okay.
So that itself is very...
What would you say to Vinod Rai today?
I have nothing to say to him.
But wouldn't you want to know, since you went through whatever you went through in the last 6 years, including spending time in jail, and I'm sure it must have been harrowing for your family.
Very difficult for my family.
Don't you want to know who was responsible for this?
Definitely, and I hope to find out.
You will?
I hope to. I mean, you can never be sure, but I really want to know. I mean, at least to understand what happened to the party and understand what happened to all of us.
Boast anything. I think the court's judgment has to be respected, and I'm glad that the court has pronounced unambiguously that all this massive propaganda which was being done against the UPA was without any foundation.
The allegation of a major scam involving the highest levels of government was never true, was not correct, and that has been established.
There was no case. From the beginning, there was no case. In fact, it was a scam of lies. There was no scam on our part. We did it in accordance with the policy prescription that we had at that point in time. And I've been saying from day one that there was no loss, and I've been vindicated today. In fact, it is Vinod Rai who must apologize to the nation. It is the opposition that must apologize to the nation, because they sullied the name of the UPA on absolutely fictitious grounds. There never was a scam, and there was never any corruption in these issues. And it's been now clarified by a judgment of the court.
ED is already taking the case to the High Court, and even in previous instances, it was the Supreme Court that cancelled the licenses, sir.
That's wrongly, according to me, wrongly, and I've always said so. Okay. I have said so in writing.
Okay.
That was also a wrong decision. I mean, the fact that the Supreme Court rendered a decision doesn't mean it's necessarily right.
Okay.
In fact, the kind of environment that was created by the media, by the opposition, by Vinod Rai, and see what the telecom sector is the dire straits it is in today. And this is entirely because of Vinod Rai.
Now, while the former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh and other UPA leaders welcomed the 2G verdict and called it a vindication of their stance, top ministers and NDA leaders said that the judgment is not a proof of the Congress-led UPA government's innocence. In fact, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley slammed the Congress leaders for using the verdict as a badge of honour and reminded them that in 2012, the Supreme Court had in fact squashed the UPA government's spectrum policy, as the Apex Court found it arbitrary and unfair.
The Congress party leaders are treating this judgment as some kind of a badge of honor and a certification that the 2G allocation policy was an honest policy.
The policy was arbitrary and designed to promote corruption. It was implemented in an unfair manner. It was causing loss of revenue to government, and auctioning was getting much higher price. Now, for this entire scam, who is liable? In a criminal case, The special judge has said nobody is liable. I am sure the investigating and the prosecuting agency will look at it.
2008 के ऑक्शन को लेकर के सीवीसी ने स्वयं जांच शुरू की थी और नीति को दोषपूर्ण माना था। 15-16 के ऑक्शन को लेकर के सीवीसी ने जो बात कही है, मुझे लगता है वो ध्यान देने योग्य है। सीवीसी has applauded Department for Transparency and has given an award in 2017. 2001 की प्राइस पर 2008 में स्पेक्ट्रम दिए गए और वो फर्स्ट कम फर्स्ट सर्व की जगह फर्स्ट कम फर्स्ट पे बनाई गई, जो आर्बिट्रेरी थी और भ्रष्टाचारपूर्ण थी।
Judge Saini's judgment is a very bad judgment, and it has to be appealed. And such things happen in courts of law. That's why we have 3 tiers of courts. So this is not a setback at all. It is a what I would call as an aberration, because the law officers were not serious about fighting corruption. And I would like the Prime Minister to take a lesson from this and set up a warlike council for fighting corruption.
I am shocked as much as most people who've been closely following this 2G scam from 2008 have. So, you know, I can only go by what the judge seems to have said, which is that the prosecution failed to prove its case. I think we all have to accept that the Supreme Court ruled in 2010 that these licenses must be cancelled. That there was wrongdoing has already been established by the Supreme Court. Now for Mr. Sybil, who's obviously very good at this, spinning something out of nothing, to argue that there has been no wrongdoing and he is justified and a zero loss theory of January 2010 is justified, is all shooting, like building castles in the sky.
That's not all. We also caught up with Congress leader PC Chacko, who was the chairman of the Joint Parliamentary Committee which probed the alleged 2G scam. Now, Chacko reiterated that the parliamentary panel had held that the CAG's presumptive loss figure of 1.76 lakh crore rupees was ill-conceived, and added that the CAG overstepped its jurisdiction.
The policy of the government at that time was to give the spectrum to the first come, first served basis, not on auction. Had it been auctioned, it would have been the loss or income. That was the finding of the CNBC. So that was, overstepping his jurisdiction by the CNBC. This is the view we have been taking, and the committee also recommended the same. There is no revenue loss to the government. Deliberately, we have given the spectrum at a lower price, so that benefited 85 lakhs of the, consumers of telecom users in India. The policy was not to give it an auction. Then how can the CSAT make such a comment?
Now, here's the immediate political impact of the verdict. The 2G scam verdict has come as a big relief for the DMK party, and the party expects the judgment to brighten its prospects in the battle for the RK Nagar Assembly constituency, which, remember, went to poll today. The seat was vacated after J. Jayalalitha's death last year. DMK, AIADMK and independent candidate TTV Dinakaran are the key contenders for this seat.
பொய் கணக்குகளை எல்லாம் காட்டி இந்த வழக்கை திணித்தார்கள். ஆக அப்படிப்பட்ட அந்த வழக்கிலிருந்து அனைவருமே குற்றமற்றவர்கள் என்ற ஒரு தீர்ப்பு டெல்லியில் இருக்கக்கூடிய தனி நீதிமன்றத்தின் மூலமாக கிடைத்திருப்பது உள்ளபடிய மகிழ்ச்சிக்குரிய ஒன்று.
In ordinary life, if a man falls down, another man would come and give his helping hand. But in politics, if a man is falling down, the other person would try to stand up on him. So many people tried to stand on us, but now everyone has fallen down. We have stood up.
Welcome back. You're watching our special coverage of the 2G verdict. Now, in a landmark judgment, Special CBI Court Judge O.P. Seni has acquitted all the accused, including the former Telecom Minister A. Raja, DMK leader Kanimozhi, and a clutch of corporate honchos. So what do legal experts make really of this judgment? We spoke with two former Attorney Generals, Solio Sarabji and Mukul Rohatgi. While Sarabji is of the opinion that the jubilation of those acquitted could be short-lived, Mukul Rohatgi, who was the government's main legal advisor till a few months ago, says that the verdict is absolutely sound, and for him it is on expected lines.
It's the cardinal principle of criminal jurisprudence that the prosecution must establish the charges beyond reasonable doubt. In this case, the judges held that the prosecution has failed to do so. But in any case, the conclusion is there, it favors the accused, and as I said, it is in keeping with the cardinal principles of criminal jurisprudence that the prosecution must prove its charges beyond reasonable doubt, and the judges held that in this case, the prosecution failed to do so. If that is so, of course, the accused must be set free. It's premature. For the present, they've been acquitted. They have right to feel happy about it. But please remember, there is an appeal to the High Court, and the High Court may take a different view. It's a judgment which is liable to be taken in appeal, and it will all depend upon what the appellate to the High Court does it. So all this jubilation is short-lived for the time being.
Justice Seni suggesting that the prosecution has been unable to build a credible case and hence all the accused stand acquitted. Setback, sir?
Yeah, that's true, but as far as I'm concerned, I think the verdict is absolutely sound because there was no criminality involved in the allegations of CBI. The entire case turned around the interpretation of a particular clause, which was called Clause 8 of the bidding terms. Now, interpretation of a clause cannot lead to any criminality, and I was pretty sure that the acquittal would follow.
Mr. Rohatgi, if I may interrupt you, sir. You are now the former Attorney General, sir, but when you were Attorney General for this government, sir, this government has believed that there was criminal conspiracy, that this was a scam that was hatched by the UPA, but you're saying that you're clear that the CBI has not been able to establish any criminality.
I have no doubt about it. See, it doesn't matter whether Attorney General or not Attorney General. The case which was filed by CBI, as I said, turned only on interpretation of a particular clause. There is no question of any criminality. That's all.
Today, the former Attorney General, Mr. Mukul Rohatgi, has welcomed the judgment. When he was appointed, I had protested to the Prime Minister that he was the advocate for many of the accused, including Unitech. And so was that Ranjit Kumar. And these people should not be made law officers, because a wrong signal will go that we are not serious about corruption. And after many such letters on the follies, mistakes, Mr. Mukul Rohatgi also wrote a letter to the Home Minister saying that, in effect, that Maran brothers should not be prosecuted and that economic crime is not national security.
Okay, that was Subramaniam Swamy reacting to the verdict. Now, going forward, what will be interesting to note is what happens to the 122 telecom licenses that were cancelled by the Supreme Court in the wake of the 2G scam report as alleged by the CAG. Now, remember, in February 2012, the Supreme Court ruled on a public interest litigation and declared that 2G spectrum allotment unconstitutional and arbitrary, it cancelling the 122 licenses issued in 2008 under the then Minister A. Raja. According to the court, Raja wanted to favour some companies at the cost of the public exchequer and virtually gifted away important and national assets. The Supreme Court's order meant that companies like Unitech, Systema, Loop Mobile and Videocon lost all their licenses, as shown by the graphics that you can see on your screen. The biggest hit over there going in for Unitech. Today, SR and the Reliance Group issued statements welcoming the Patiala House Court judgment. Here's what they said.
From day one, SR Group was dragged in for no reason at all. it was an interpretation of a clause on which CBI had a view, and on that they filed a charge sheet. For 6 years we have given thousands of documents and evidence, hundreds of witnesses, and it is now proved that the entire case was bogus. In fact, this is a case where Loop, which had paid 1400 crores as the license fees, has to get refund now. The government must give refund of this 1400 crores to them.
The court has held that the prosecution has visibly failed to make out a case against them. It's a very good judgment, very welcome judgment, and justice has prevailed.
BJP should be ashamed. You know, they tried to win elections, win the hearts of the people, swayed the wind in the country by making allegations of this particular scam, 2G main Ghotala. Now what has happened to it? There's no Ghotala, nobody has committed crime, and UPA has been exonerated entirely of anything which is improper or illegal.